Hey, 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 boys and girls. We're the Serious Film Critics, and we're back again for episode 28. My name is Sam.
And I'm David.
All right, guys, we got a good one ahead for you today. We're going to be reviewing the recently released horror movie, Hereditary. We're going to be doing some movie news. We're going to be talking about the trailer for First Man, and yeah, it's going to be a pretty solid episode. How you doing, Dave?
Pretty all right. How about you?
I'm pretty good. I'm watching a Twister on mute in the background, so that's a solid choice.
Oh yeah, that's quality.
That's been on a lot lately. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because it's like summertime and there's a threat for tornadoes, but yeah, this is really a quintessential '90s movie.
Oh yeah, especially with like Bill Paxton. Who's the actress in it?
Helen Hunt. Yeah,
so 90s.
It's so '90s, and I don't know if I realized this before, but it has Bill Paxton's wife, who like I guess leaves him or whatever halfway through the movie. It's one of Jerry's girlfriends from Seinfeld, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good too. She's the one she was like a phone sex woman. So and they talked to Kramer, and then she's the one that didn't give Elaine the toilet paper. So that was pretty good seeing that.
Yeah, that's so 90s. Everything about
so 90s. Yeah, not too much going on. Are you watching any of the World Cup?
I've been following it a little bit. Portugal freaking tied Iran today, but they're still going through the next round.
Oh, so they made because they tied Spain, right?
Yeah, they ended up getting through still, but they didn't play very good today.
Yeah, they should have beaten Iran, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. I think Ronaldo, he had a penalty saved, and then Iran scored literally like in the last seconds of the game.
Oh, God. I guess it doesn't really matter, though, as long as they advance, right? It's not much of a...
Well, they have to play a better team now. I guess they have to play Uruguay, who are pretty good.
Oh, yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah, I feel like I've been trying to watch some of it. I feel like it's on like early in the day or something. I never...
Yeah, the last game usually starts at like 2 p.m., so...
Yeah, which... Like
10.
Yeah, it's a combination of I'm either at work or if I'm off, like today, I'm barely waking up soon enough to be able to watch it. Like,
yeah,
like I don't know, it's just not really on my schedule. But what did I watched some of Nigeria versus who was it, Iceland the other day, and Nigeria was putting the boots to them. But that's pretty much all I've watched. Did Germany not make the group stage or something?
I don't know if it's been determined yet because not all the groups are finished, and I know they like tied Sweden, so I think that there's a chance they don't go through. Maybe. But
yeah, I know. I knew they weren't doing so hot. And who else is there? Like Brazil, I guess, is a favorite.
Brazil and Spain, I think, are like the two favorites. But I mean, some of like the smaller teams are playing really well, like Croatia and Belgium.
Is that what's his De Bruyne or whatever from Belgium? Is that their best?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I can't
on that actually. He might be Dutch.
Oh yeah, I'm always trying to think of like the one player I know on like on these really good teams, but
yeah, that's how it is for me too. Like Croatia, they got Modric.
Oh, okay, Modric. I've heard of him. Yeah, obviously Argentina has Messi and those guys, but yeah, that's not that exciting. USA didn't even make it, so
yeah. But I mean, it's funny too because all the teams that like went in place of the USA, they're all getting knocked out. Like Panama and Costa Rica, none of them are getting through.
No, it's like pretty much the normal teams. I'm surprised the Netherlands didn't make it. I saw that, aren't they? They're like normally really good, aren't they?
Yeah, Italy didn't make it either, and I mean that's another good team.
Oh, Italy didn't make it?
Yeah, I think it's just because there's too many good teams in their group. It's like there's groups, like there's like all these Middle Eastern teams that are just terrible, but I mean there's no good teams there, so they get through.
Yeah, so I guess if they're just beating the scrub teams around them, that it's enough to qualify them. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, well, enough soccer talk. We can move on to some movie stuff. You want to do talk about some news first, or we got this trailer?
Let's do this little bit of news, I guess. We only have one bit, I guess.
So I believe it's Kathleen Kennedy and the Star Wars crew are putting a halt on these Star Wars spin-offs after Solo didn't make money, right?
Apparently, like, they're called anthology films. So basically, I think I read that it was either 7 or 9, which is insane.
Oh my God!
Movies were in development, and then I read that all of them were on hold, and then I also read that they're not necessarily all on hold. They said that the Obi-Wan movie might still be moving forward, but yeah, I mean, Solo really did disappoint at the box office, and apparently they're kind of like reorganizing and kind of deciding where to go next.
Yeah, that's good news to me. What were the number? Do you know what the numbers were on Solo? I keep hearing it tanked, but I never actually heard what the
I don't know what the final numbers are, but I think it made back like more than its budget by a little bit, but so probably like 250, 300 million at the box.
But that's still, I guess, a huge fail for any kind of Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the advertising budget was probably $200 million already, so they didn't even make a profit or even break even, probably.
I mean,
they were probably expecting like nearly $1 billion.
Yeah, I'm sure they were, because I feel like every other Star Wars movie has probably made close to that. So that's good. It's music to my ears. I'm a little disappointed about the Obi-Wan movie because I think that could have been interesting, but other than that, and they really could have used Ewan McGregor again. I think
it's so frustrating. Is like, and this is something I want to talk about too. Is how I guess it's turning into like this whole identity politics thing. But it's like, first of all, everybody that I know, the only movie they are interested in is either Boba Fett, which I'm not, or Obi-Wan with Ewan McGregor. And it's like, instead of doing the one movie that everybody is asking for, they make Han Solo, which is the one movie that nobody wanted that movie. And I see a lot of people saying that, no, I wanted it. Like, well, you're the minority, because I don't know a single person that wanted that movie.
No, and it doesn't come down. It also doesn't come down to like, oh, if you liked Last Jedi, you wanted Solo, or like, because I like Last Jedi a lot, and I didn't want Solo. Like, it doesn't matter. I feel like everybody wants.
It's very obvious that they just don't listen to what the fans want.
Yeah, they really don't, and clearly nobody wanted to see this movie because it didn't make much money. And again, it's like, yes, the movie was better than I thought it was going to be, but I still didn't need the movie, and I still didn't really want it to happen, just because it turned out to be okay. And I still didn't love it or anything. It was just pretty good, but it's a pretty good movie that still, in my opinion, taints the legacy of Star Wars because it just wasn't great, and it was kind of average in a lot of ways. So, yeah, I didn't want it to happen. I think if they had just made the new trilogy and done the Obi-Wan movie, I think that would have been perfect. Because the Obi-Wan movie, I feel like there's actually a story there to be told that people are interested in. And they could have used Ewan McGregor, because he's like probably about the perfect age to play Obi-Wan at this stage of his life.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous to me that like, and obviously Disney is listening now because, they just shut down production or put them all on hold. It's like, if you have all of these people asking for one type of movie and all of them saying, we don't want this movie, and they literally had this opinion like, oh, well, you don't know what you want. And then it came back and bit them in the ass when they released this movie.
Well, I have a feeling they just, looked at Marvel, realized that worked, and then assumed that the Star Wars crowd was either the same people or would just be in favor of continuing it the same way that Marvel has gone. And it's just not the case. They're two different things. And I'm sure a lot of the fan base of each of those things intersects, but it's not just the same.
Well, not only that, but they're making these movies, and this is obviously the case with The Last Jedi. They're making these movies to try and appeal to a new audience because they just assume that Star Wars fans will see anything they make because that's how Marvel fans are, like you said. But that's not how they are. If you make a movie that doesn't feel like a good Star Wars movie, they're going to be pissed and they're not going to go see it. And that's what happened.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem I had with Solo is it's just average. Like, at least The Last Jedi, a lot of people hated it, but at least it did something bold. Like it wasn't an average movie. Solo was just like okay. And I mean, again, it's like it was still better than I thought it was going to be, but to have a Star Wars movie come out that's just okay, right, middle of the road, is just not all right. Like, that needs to not happen because it's a Star Wars movie. It should be something other than just middle of the road. So I am totally in favor of them putting a hold on not making any more of these.
Yeah, me too. And I'm really curious because, a lot of people, the people, there are a lot of people that are saying any criticism of The Last Jedi is just like, like angry rabid males or whatever, the alt-right. And it's obvious that a lot of people just didn't like the movie. And it's like, if you didn't, I mean, our conversation, I think you gave some fair reasons why you didn't like it. And I agreed with some of those reasons. They just weren't as big of a deal to me. So I think it doesn't have to be one side or the other. You don't have to say, if you're on this side, you're so-and-so, and if you're on this side, you're that. That's just ridiculous. Yeah, it makes me really mad because they're saying like even Ryan Johnson is like trying to act like that anybody that dislikes the movie is just like, like a He-Man woman hater. And it's like, there are a lot of older people that don't know anything about any of this that just didn't like the movie. And I mean, that's something that they should accept and say, okay, well, it pleased a lot of people, obviously. But my other thing is, it's like a lot of factors went into Solo doing poorly, and I'm wondering if people are going to like not see episode 9 or if they're going to get over it by then, because that's going to be really telling.
Yeah, that will be really telling. I mean, man, Disney and Star Wars have a lot riding on that episode 9, and I'm definitely going to see it. I'm excited, but I feel like because that's a trilogy movie, I still feel like a lot of people are going to see that one. I don't think it has the same backlash. I mean, although a lot of people didn't like Last Jedi, I still don't think the backlash is going to affect them the way that one of these spin-off movies would. I think a lot of people are still going to be interested in seeing it. But if they don't, if it doesn't do well, that's going to be a massive blow to Kathleen
I'll tell you one
Disney.
thing. Rian Johnson's trilogy is going straight down the toilet if episode 9 doesn't do that well. That will be the first casualty, because they're going to blame all of it on him.
Yeah, that's not going to happen if episode 9 tanks, but we shall see next year. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm really curious, because I'm not sure. I don't know if it's going to do really well and it's all like a load, or if people are going to be like, no, we're not going to do it anymore. So we'll see. I think it's going to do well enough to be a success no matter what, but I don't ever see it coming close to episode 7.
I agree. I think it's going to be successful. I don't think it's going to be record breaking, because we've just had enough Star Wars movies at this point that I don't think people, I don't think even a lot of fans consider Star Wars to have that magic anymore. That, episode 7, people had it because a Star Wars movie hadn't been out for whatever, 12 years, 11 years, however long it was, but 13 years. But, by episode 9 at this point, after we've had episode 7 and 8, a lot of backlash to 8, and we've had these 2 spin-off movies that I thought were both, I really didn't like Rogue One much at all, and I thought Solo was okay. So now we've had all these movies. I think I think it's just going to be good. Like, I think it's going to have a good turnout, but I don't think it's going to be, the upper stratosphere of what people might have thought it was going to be when the first new trilogy movie came out.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, like you said, Disney's already released 4 Star Wars movies, which is just like incredible considering we only had 6 before.
Yeah, it's just... I'm just sick of them. Even my parents, who are not like big Star Wars fans, are just like, we're getting kind of tired of these Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
And it's like my parents who barely even watch it, and they're, even my dad was like, Star Wars movies used to be an experience when they came out, and now it's, even my dad is like understanding that that's faded. So yeah, it's just not what it used to be. But alrighty, well, that's Star Wars. It's the state we're in right now. Want to do this First Man trailer?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, this thing's coming out, I think, later this year, and starring Ryan Gosling, and it's about the Neil Armstrong moon landing, and Damien Chazelle, who did La La Land and Whiplash, is directing. So what'd you think, Dave?
I thought the trailer looked good, but there were some of the drama that they kind of manufactured. I get that it all really happened, but it's kind of hard to take it super seriously, because it's like, what happens, and I know that that's all historical movies are, but the moon landing is something that everybody knows that it was like a success. So seeing especially with, I already don't like Claire Foy in the trailer that much, because she seems to be like one of the main points of contention.
What else has she been in? I don't even know really.
The Crown.
Oh, I don't want to watch that. So
She's
I'm not
really
sure.
good in that, but it just, I don't know. It seemed like a lot of the drama was between her and Neil, and I guess that there probably was a lot of that. But I don't know. It's like, all right, well, we all know that he's gonna make it to the moon and back with no problems. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that would be my biggest knock too. I still think it looks really good, but yeah, any kind of biopic movie like this, what happens, and it's probably gonna have to hit those cookie cutter moments where they're building the drama for a situation where you already know how it's going to happen. But so I would rather see these guys, because I love everybody involved in this, and I gotta say, in a lot of ways this movie presses all my buttons, because it's got Gosling, it's got Damien Chazelle, who I like a lot. I'm liking more and more. I love Kyle Chandler. I love him, and he's in it too. It's about space, which I love, so it's pressing a lot of my buttons, but it's still a story that everybody knows, and it's probably going to end up hitting a lot of these typical biopic moments that are going to be a little annoying. But other than that, I'm pretty excited. I think the visuals look really good too. So,
oh yeah, like all of the production design, the cinematography look good. I actually thought there were a couple of points. I guess this is maybe just how Neil was in real life, where Ryan Gosling just seemed super like when he was talking to his family at dinner, and he's like, "We have every intention of making it back." He seemed kind of like he was not talking to his family in that scene.
No, it really didn't. That was such a. I almost thought that was like a voiceover for another part, but then it shows him like saying it and looking at his kid, and I'm like, man, that is a really like formal, kind of indifferent way to be talking about that to your kids.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's not how I would be telling my kids.
No, that sounds like something you'd say at a business meeting, or before investors or something.
Yeah, not like, oh, well, we're gonna that's the plan, but no promises. Sorry, bud.
Well, yeah, if you just added like a son on the end of that, we have every intention of completing the necessary steps to take this mission, son. It was a pretty formal way to talk to your family, but I'm excited. I think I had this as number one on my most anticipated, so it was kind of a weak year when we did our list, but I'm still pretty excited for it. I think it looks good. I don't know if I heard enough of the score to really make any kind of determination as far as the score goes, but other than the biopic stuff, I'm pretty pumped for it.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll be reviewing this one.
Yeah, definitely. So stay tuned, guys. Alrighty, man. Want to jump into this horror movie? We're doing Hereditary today.
Yeah.
Which was a pretty interesting ride. So, starring Toni Collette, directed by, can't remember the name off the top of my. That is it. And yeah, you want to lead us into it, Dave?
Yeah, so this one's been getting a ton of hype. It's kind of like almost like a horror film renaissance going on right now. And
yeah, I keep hearing it grouped with like the Babadook and The Witch, those kind of movies that, yeah, quote unquote horror renaissance. So yeah, it's in that vein, or it's been said to be in that vein.
Yeah, so I think this is pretty much the debut of the director, and starring Toni Collette. Gabriel Byrne is the other notable actor in this.
Yeah.
So it opens with...
I like him a lot. I haven't seen him in anything in a long time, but I was glad to see him because I like him.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, he's pretty good in this, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, so it opens with... we see the family, the Grahams. It's like... Toni Collette plays Annie, and I think it opens with Gabriel Byrne, who plays Steve, is looking for his daughter, Charlie, who I guess wasn't sleeping in her room. I guess she sleeps in the attic. Something.
Does she? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think she does. It's been a little disclaimer here. It's been probably about 2 weeks since I've seen it. So I remember everything, but it's a little,
I'll keep it brief.
Yeah, you'll have to fill in the gaps too, because you've seen it more recently.
Yeah, so they go to a funeral for their grandmother, and the whole thing is that everybody in the family obviously didn't like her, except for Charlie, apparently. And then later, Annie goes to a support group and talks about that her mother, Ellen, suffered from a lot of mental illness and, hereditary. So I guess the idea is that it all got passed down to her and then potentially Charlie. So then we see we're in school with Charlie, and a pigeon or bird flies into the window, and Charlie goes out later and cuts the pigeon's head off and puts it in her pocket.
Yeah, it's normal behavior.
Yeah.
I did that all the time in grade school.
This is something that bothered me so much about the movie, just because of the ending. I think I already told you I didn't like the ending, but
yeah.
So then we cut to Peter, who is like more interested in girls, and he's a pothead. He's not doing his work. So he gets invited to a party because he wants to impress this girl, and his mom makes him take Charlie. And Charlie, as it turns out, has a peanut allergy, I guess.
Yeah, some kind of allergy.
I'm pretty sure it's
nuts.
I think.
Yeah.
So he's an idiot. I mean, I guess he's a kid. He's an idiot. He takes her to the party where they're all drinking and smoking weed. And
I was also just, it was weird to me that he was so okay about taking her to this party.
He should have been a little more adamant, because I guess because he couldn't blow his cover that he was going to a party. First of all, the mom was really stupid because I think she knew that it wasn't legit. And then it's like he takes her to a party where they're like our college or high school kids drinking, and she's like 12 years old.
I mean, it's true that he wanted to act like it was a normal thing so he didn't have to blow his cover, but if I were in that situation, I would say, you know what, I'm not feeling so hot. I don't think I'm going to go. Like, I would not go to that party with my, little tiny baby sister. Not baby, but she's little sister, who not only that, but she also is kind of, has issues. Like, there's no way I would go
I
to
mean,
that
not
party.
only is it irresponsible, but it's like if you take a kid to a party, you're not gonna like be like the life of the party. Everyone's gonna be like, why did this weirdo bring his freaking little weird sister? You're gonna be like, what?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like anybody else there had a child with them, and I don't know. Maybe it's just because the kid didn't really give a shit, but I would be on edge the whole time thinking about, I mean, I would not feel comfortable just leaving her in the middle of the party and then walking off to go smoke weed. Like, that's.
And I get that it tries to portray him as like really just like an irresponsible teenager, but
Yeah.
that is like way above the average irresponsible teenager. That's like manslaughter by neglect.
Yeah, that was a little unbelievable for me. I mean, I went along with it, but it was still.
Yeah, I was able to buy
but
it, but I was like, yeah, this kid is. And then the other thing is, all right, so at the party, he tries to go in and smoke weed with this girl, and it's funny because there's a whole bunch of people and they're trying to get his weed. He tells her to go eat some chocolate cake, and it turns out it has nuts in it, so she goes in anaphylactic shock. And I would think that if her nut allergy was that serious, she would be carrying like a EpiPen around, I would hope.
Yeah, I would think so, especially if the brother told. I mean, it's just you think the brother. If it's a cake, a lot of cakes have nuts in them or nut products in them. I mean, that is just. I get that he's irresponsible, but that is so irresponsible in a life-threatening way.
Yeah, that's like criminal negligence. And I mean,
it's
the mom
it
knows
is like
they're going to a barbecue, and you would think she'd be like, take her EpiPen so she doesn't die.
Yeah, I mean, that is a level of irresponsibility that is for any normal person, and this brother is portrayed to be fairly normal. I mean, obviously a bit of a slacker, but it's just pushing the limits of believability there to me.
Especially, like I said, with the mom, like I said, she tells him, or he says that she's going to a barbecue where there'll be food, and you think she would, like I said, just be like, oh, take your EpiPen, or don't eat freaking nuts, like, you're gonna die if you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm glad we agree, because this didn't bother me that much when it happened. When I thought about it more, I was like, that was just, no.
Yeah, I was the same way about that. I kind of went with it at the time. I mean, it was in the back of my mind when I was watching it, but especially thinking about it afterwards, it did bother me.
All right, so this is when stuff gets real.
Yeah.
So she starts going into shock, and he's already like high, which I don't think would have even mattered because there's evil forces at work. Instead of calling an ambulance, he decides to drive her to the hospital, and he's driving down the highway, dark 2-lane desert road. I don't know where this is set.
Is it New Mexico? I for some reason I think it's New Mexico, but I can't.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
So he's driving down the road, and for some reason she like takes. I don't know if maybe she takes her seatbelt off. She rolls the window down and sticks her head out to try and get some air. And suddenly he sees like some kind of carcass in the road, and he swerves around to it. And of course her head's sticking out, so he hits a telephone pole and it decapitates her.
Yeah.
And then, I guess he's in shock. So instead of like doing something like, to maybe spare his parents, like the grief of seeing their daughter like that, he just drives home and goes into bed and waits for them to find her.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess he was in shock, but come on.
I thought that, I don't know, that scene was pretty intense to me. I did like that a lot. It was unexpected. And I like to think, I mean, I can't imagine I would have responded in the way he did in that circumstance, but this time I was along with it more than the other one because I just can't imagine how that would affect him. I feel like you would almost be you could be in such a state of shock that you might respond the way he did. That one I believed. It's
hard to say because, I mean, I feel like he would have had enough time to at least come down and be like, okay, I need to call the police instead of just being like,
yeah.
I mean, like I said, he was in shock. We don't know how he would react, but we know that he had enough time to drive home and think about what happened the entire time.
Yeah, I still think I definitely think I would have responded differently in that situation, but I think it was a powerful scene.
Yeah, it was a good scene, but again, just not quite believable.
Yeah.
So, parents find the dead body, and then also on the telephone pole she hit, there was like a weird symbol, which I could barely even see, but
yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah. So, so now like things are obviously really tense because, their idiot teenage son got their daughter killed. And so Annie meets someone from the support group named Joan, who basically tries to like be helpful to her and is like, oh, I lost a son. If you need somebody to talk to, you can talk to me. Oh, and the whole time, Annie is a miniature artist. I guess she like is pretty famous. And in order to cope with her grief, it's funny because I just saw a movie trailer about some guy that did almost exactly the same thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that
like a movie
trailer? Did you see that? We need to not get too off topic.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that.
We'll get back to that. But it's the guy he makes like miniature scenes with like GI Joes to cope with his grief.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
and
so
that's coming out this year?
Yeah, and in her, she's like doing like a house, and she recreates the scene of Charlie getting decapitated, and then obviously like the dad sees that and be like, you better not let our son see that.
Yeah.
And I'm also assuming she's not going to like send that to the freaking exhibit, be like, oh, look, here's my decapitated daughter in the street.
Yeah, do you guys like it?
Yeah, so oh yeah, and then so she starts talking to Joan, and then she meets Joan again, and Joan tells her that she can communicate with the dead through seance.
Right.
Yeah, so the whole time too, the son's name is Peter, by the way. He's obviously messed up. He's got PTSD, I guess. And so Joan convinces Annie to go to a seance with her because Joan uses it to talk to her son, and she uses like something with a glass where it moves itself to prove that she's talking to her son. So Annie believes this, and then I think in the middle, first she tells somebody that she almost like lit her son on fire because she sleepwalks.
Yeah.
I don't remember who she tells this to.
Doesn't she tell it to him?
Maybe it's him. Well, I think she tells Joan after she told him, and I guess she's constantly going into his room and like, creeping him out.
Yeah.
And then the whole time Peter's having weird dreams about her, or maybe they're really happening. They get into a big fight at dinner, and then Annie wakes him up all in the middle of the night to have a seance and try and talk to Charlie, and it doesn't work. I think that the only thing that happens is the glass goes flying across the room. And then
yeah, and then she starts speaking, and I don't know if it's Charlie's voice or...
Oh, yeah. And then the dad is like, well, this is a problem. So he throws water on her, literally like throw water on this thing.
And it worked.
Yeah.
Temporarily.
And then, so then Annie's like, well, Charlie's evil, and I need to do something about it. So she tries to throw Charlie's sketchbook into the fire, and it lights her arm on fire, so she gets it back out. And then Annie goes up into the attic and goes through her mom's stuff. This is another thing that we'll get to with the attic.
Yeah, there's a lot to get to there.
Yeah, something I didn't like a lot. She goes through her mom's stuff and finds something about King Paimon, who, I don't know, he might as well be the devil. He wants to be reincarnated, and he needs a male host. And I guess, is this the point where she sees that Joan was hanging out with her mom?
Yeah, she kind of finds all this stuff out around the same time, and then, yeah.
Her mom was like a part of some weird devil cult trying to, I don't know, do devil stuff. And Joan is a part of it too.
There were some real bad customers.
Yeah. Then Peter starts hallucinating, seeing Joan, and he hurts himself in class, gets taken home. Then let me think.
Right around the same time, you already touched on the diary burning. Then the dad burns and he dies.
Yeah. Then Annie tries to burn the. I don't really know what really happened here. Annie tries to burn the sketchbook again, and this time it lights Steve on fire and kills him. Oh, and before this, Steve finds out that somebody dug up the grandmother's grave, and Annie goes up there and finds her mother's decapitated body up in the attic. And then Steve, who assumes that Annie did it, and I'm guessing she did, and she managed to hide that sucker up in the attic for God knows how long without anybody smelling it.
Yeah.
She goes up there and finds the corpse. She tries to send Steve up there. So then I think later Peter wakes up, finds his father's body. Annie chases him up into the attic. He sees all this cult stuff up there, and then he sees Annie up floating in the sky, and she decapitates herself with a piano wire. Then Peter sees like some naked people standing in the shadows. He jumps out the window, and then like I think it's kind of implied that he's possessed by good old King Paimon. And then all the occult revelry going on. And I think the grandma's there too.
Yeah, I think so.
And then she's like, oh, you're our king, blah, blah, whatever. Turns out the entire thing was just a plot to get King Paimon a body so he can come back to Earth.
And that is
That's it.
Hereditary. Well, all right. So there's a lot to get into, I think. What were your did you like it? Did you not? What general thoughts on the movie?
First of all, like, I guess that this movie is supposed to be taken like literally, because I mean, it's like everybody talked about like the portrayal of mental illness and stuff, but in the end, it's like nobody was actually mentally ill. There was just like a demon.
Here's, I think, my biggest problem with the movie, and I don't know if it's necessarily the fault of the filmmaker or the movie itself, but I just went into this movie, expecting the whole thing to be either a metaphor or for there to be a deeper meaning behind it, dealing with mental illness. You know, I heard a lot of people compare it to the Babadook, which is definitely, you know, the Babadook is a manifestation of grief and all that kind of stuff. And this movie, I mean, I've really thought about it. It's pretty much just literal. It's just a literal ghost story. The whole thing is pretty much literal, I think. I can't think of any way in which it's not. So, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but I guess I just went into this movie expecting something else. And then when the end happened, I don't think the ending was, I don't know if I didn't disliked it as much as you did. I thought the ending was effective. It just wasn't anywhere close to what I thought it was going to be, and it left me a little disappointed.
Well, I think my problem is not only did we hear all this stuff about how it portrays mental illness, the movie uses all of these illusions. First of all, she talks about her grandma or her mother having all these mental illnesses, and then we see all these allusions to it, like, you know, cutting the heads off, you know, small animals is like a big red flag for kids, like having, you know, some kind of mental illness that'll...
Yeah, that's always what you hear, like serial killers and stuff do that kind of thing.
And then the other scene too, where where Annie is trying to convince her family that they need to have a seance. That to me like was screaming like, this is how a crazy person acts, and we're seeing it from the point of view of the family who are like, you're obviously crazy. But then it turns out it's all just like it was all literally happening. And I'm not really sure what to make of that, other than the fact that I don't like it. And I really didn't like the ending, because up until the end, we're kind of like, you know, it really is kind of ambiguous what's going on. And then the ending makes it very clear that it all was just a plot to get King Paimon, who literally doesn't matter at all in this movie. It's like, I don't know why they give us any exposition about him.
Exactly. I'm just like, really? That's all this whole thing was just a plot to get this King Paimon into Peter? Yep, that's it.
And
I mean, it was just kind of...
I guess the grandma wasn't mentally ill. She was just...
No, the grandma was playing the long con there.
It was the long con.
That's exactly what it was. The grandma was, you know... And I mean, she even left that note to Toni Collette that said... What was it? It was something, you know, my daughter, I'm sorry I wasn't always the best to you, but we'll be rewarded later on. And I mean, everything is just literal in this movie. And... Again, I don't know if the filmmaker ever necessarily said that it wasn't, but that was definitely the aura that I had around this movie, and had heard things like, oh, this movie is deep, and it's like the Babadook, and it addresses all these lofty issues, and I'm like, not really.
It has pretty much to say about them.
It's pretty much just a slow burn typical horror movie that has, I mean, I guess most horror movies don't have as down of an ending as this one does, but it's still not that unusual. I mean,
no, that was a pretty typical horror movie. I mean, I would say that like having a, you know, horror movie where the bad guy wins, it's not uncommon at all. And this to me felt very derivative.
Well, it reminded me, did you ever see The Witch?
No.
It reminded me almost exactly of that ending, because in that movie, to cut it very long story short, the girl is there's this family, there's witches in the woods, and basically the witches end up killing the girl's whole family except for her, and she basically becomes a witch, and the end of the movie is like them performing this occult ritual with her being a witch now. And it was, and even the music was like these two movies had very similar endings, so it definitely reminded me of that. But the rest of the movie just set it up like it was going to be something different, and it just ended up being... And I will say, I think the last 20 minutes were effective horror-wise. Like, there was some creepy stuff in there, but it just was so typical that I you know, it was like a well-done horror movie, but there was nothing beyond that. And I was really expecting there to be some unusual stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, I was really expecting to either be left ambiguous or, you know, to end with being like, oh, yeah, you know, Annie is like off her rocker and none of this is happening. I mean, and
Yeah.
this isn't even like a subversion of expectations, because if you go in it not knowing all this and you just watch it as a horror movie, then you'll expect the kind of ending that we get.
Yeah, and the ending just doesn't accomplish anything for me because it's a depressing ending. Like, you don't watch that ending and feel good, but at the same time, it doesn't really have anything to say. So it's just like a really depressing ending that with no payoff, really. The whole family just gets, killed or possessed into worshiping this demon. It's like, that's it, really?
And it's not like King Paimon is some villain of this film. We know nothing about him. We don't give a shit about him. Really at all.
Yeah,
he won.
There's nothing.
I don't care.
There's nothing about him other than suddenly I actually I had to go to the bathroom right when they were. So I came back from the bathroom and they're like flipping through this book. It shows like this drawing of King Paimon. I'm like, who? I leaned into Jessa and I was like, who the hell is that? Like, I didn't care who that was. I didn't even know who that was. And then he doesn't really even. Yeah, you don't know anything about him. And I was a little disappointed, too, because I listened to an interview with the director, and he just said, well, we were going to make it Lucifer, but we figured every other movie does Lucifer, so I just kind of looked at demons, and I randomly picked this Paimon guy. That was about it.
Yeah,
I was like, really?
I literally read that exact interview, and I was like,
that's it?
Well, you might as well have picked the devil, because it's sort of the same purpose.
Yeah, and I looked up, I don't know why, I was just doing one of my deep dives on the internet, and I looked up Paimon and all these other demons, and it's like Paimon was just basically a lieutenant of Satan, and it just wasn't, there wasn't really anything interesting about him. He was mentioned in like a couple occult books, and that's about it. So clearly the director just picked a random demon to just be, so they didn't recycle Satan, but they might as well have, because it's the same damn thing. There's nothing unique about it whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, and we know, it's not like he's like some overarching, I guess the grandma is supposed to be like the overarching kind of villain, but she kind of goes MIA, to be honest, throughout the film. So it's like there's not really an antagonist, and there's not like any kind of sinister like villain throughout the film. There's just really
and that's the other thing, is the grandma didn't really factor into it enough for me to really know her either. She wasn't really. I think maybe if they had done a much better job establishing that grandma character, it would have, and had her be the villain most of the time, and then Paimon shows up at the very end. But we don't really get the grandma that established either. So there's really just no villain up until the last 20 minutes of the movie, and it's almost as if we're supposed to be on the, oh my gosh, it's Paimon? No way. Like, oh, well, damn, they're in real trouble now. Like,
yeah. Throughout the film, like, the enemy is basically like their own mind, and then it's like, nope, turns out it's actually a demon.
Nope, it was Paimon the whole time. That's
damn Paimon.
Yeah, screw mental illness. So what you really need to worry about is Paimon. Like, that's what the message was, and and the other thing I felt really kind of bamboozled about was that Charlie character, because she's really the focus of all the trailers, and her making the noise, her little noise that she makes, and all that is in the trailers, as if she's going to be somehow either good or bad, this big character. She's really not in it much at all. She's in it for like the first third of the movie. She gets killed, and then that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
she's not really.
I'll say that when she got killed off, it was shocking, but yeah,
yeah, I will say
out of her.
I liked that. I thought that scene where she's killed, that was a really strong scene. I was like, oh my, I did not see that coming. It took me by surprise. I was shocked, and I thought that was effective, but I still thought at that point, I'm like, okay, we're either going to see her spirit in this a lot more, or she's going to turn out to be, to save the family from something, but no, that's it for her character. Her visage shows up a couple times, but she doesn't do anything. And the only other time that you really mention her is, I guess it's her spirit that goes into Peter at the very end, but it's like her spirit as Paimon, because the grandma at the very end is like, oh, Charlie, you are Paimon now. And so her character was really disappointing to me as well. I thought she was going to be involved a lot more, but she's really just, it kind of seems like they just cast a weird looking girl and basically just played up her weird looks
really.
I feel like she doesn't look, obviously she's a much more normal looking kid in real life, but she still has an unusual look about her. So they clearly just cast her because they could make her look really weird, and that's about it.
Well, not only that, but it's like, it's kind of revealed at the end, like you said, that she was King Paimon the entire time. Like, she barely does anything that sinister. The only sinister thing she does is literally cut that bird's head off.
Yeah, she has no character. She's just kind of monotone for the first whatever third of the movie, and then she's gone. There's nothing to her. So I thought we were going to get to know that character, know what she was really like, or why she gravitated toward the grandma, or whether she had good intentions or not. But you don't really get any of that. It's literally just Paimon, or evil beings surrounding them. There's no clarification as to what Charlie was actually like. She was just kind of there and then gone.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, the only things I can remember her doing is like walking around eating like a chocolate bar and then the bird. And
yeah. And I mean, the setup is good. I think the chocolate bar stuff, that's interesting. And, her noise is kind of creepy. But then it doesn't go anywhere. There's no payoff to that. It kind of establishes this odd child that you can definitely see being possibly a conduit for evil, but then there's nothing else to her. She was just kind of a tool the whole time. That's
yeah, exactly.
It's just a very literal story. I mean, it's really the grandma had this scheme the whole time to infect the son with Charlie, I guess they wanted it to be Charlie, but she ended up being a girl, and Paimon likes the boys, so she needed that. Once Peter was born, I guess the grandma was just pulling the strings behind the scenes until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
One thing I also don't understand is, I mean, I'm guessing this Paimon is, millennia old, or who knows how old. It's an other dimensional being. Really, like, the queen of this underworld or whatever is like this 70-year-old grandma. Like,
yeah, I know. Like, it's
how does that even make sense?
Like, it doesn't even seem like she's like doing King Paimon's bidding. It's almost like she is the one pulling the strings, not King Paimon. Like, she's doing it because she wants to.
Yeah, and there's a sign at the end in the little treehouse or whatever that doesn't say Queen Lay or whatever her name is. So it's almost like she's the queen of this underworld with Paimon, but she's 70 freaking years old. Like, what did she?
Yeah.
She must have been doing she must have putting in overtime doing. I mean, I would think Cleopatra, someone of that time period, or some ancient being would be the true queen to this demon, but no, it's just some grandma that was probably born in like the 40s. Like, what? That makes no sense.
And she literally liked to freaking sew the pillows with people's names on them.
Yeah,
I thought it was really funny when we see that the Joan woman has a pillow from the grandma, and it's like revealed later that it was from the grandma, and it's like, wow, that's what she does.
And I think it was really suspicious too, that seance scene. That it was just, I kind of liked it because that first seance scene with Joan, because it was, you never see those things go that well, but it almost, if I were Toni Collette, I would have been really suspicious about that, because it went so well. I mean, it was just like, oh, there's my grandson, he's here, he's telling me all these great things. It just seems so artificial, or I don't know. It just, maybe I'm just taking knowledge from other movies, but how seance scenes normally go. But that was just, it seemed very artificial.
Yeah, I mean, and then it showed her look under the desk or under the table and not see anything. But
yeah, I mean, I guess what happened there, maybe Paimon was like pulling the grandma was making it go that way just to convince Toni Collette that it was real. But I don't know. Yeah, I gotta say though, I didn't dislike the movie. I still liked the movie. I just found it. I would say the first half, maybe even 2/3 of the movie, I was loving it. I thought I really liked the score. I thought, we can get into the performances. I thought the performances were really good.
Yeah, I mean, Toni Collette gave, an amazing performance. That's something we didn't talk about yet.
Yeah, she was great. I mean, I thought that Gabriel Byrne as the dad was great too. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was great.
Yeah, I even thought the son was good. I mean, Charlie was good while she was in it. She just didn't get enough screen time or enough characterization, but I thought the performances were great.
Cinematography was really good.
Yeah, that was really good too. I mean, it was well shot. I thought the direction was good up until the end. Like, the score was creepy. It just, to me, it's one of these movies where it was just going along at such a good pace, and then I don't know,
just like torpedoed it for me. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah, it was just I would not have expected that ending, but not in a good way. It was like an unexpected ending, but just not in the way I wanted it to be.
Like I said, I think that if you went into this not knowing anything and just viewed it as a regular horror movie, you probably would have seen that ending coming.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the expectations and what I've been hearing around this movie just gave me totally different expectations than what the movie actually delivered. And because of that, I didn't like it as much as I might have even liked it a little bit more if I had known going in, this is just going to be a normal horror movie that's, elevated by, because it's technically really good. So I would still say it's better than an average horror movie, but it just kind of follows that same, plot line. Like it just doesn't do anything.
There were a lot of things in this movie that felt very derivative to me. Actually, I don't know if you noticed it. The score to me, like there were some scenes where they were playing like that really ominous music, and it just seems like it was lifted straight out of another horror movie. But I couldn't put my finger on which movie.
Yeah, I can't.
I mean, that just may be like a trope of horror movies, but
actually, wait. Now that I'm thinking about it, it does sound. Is it The Conjuring? I don't. Because it's kind of like that horn, that like depressing horn sound, and I feel like maybe I have heard that before.
Just like in the context of the film, where like shows like obviously like a scene that's supposed to be ominous, and it's like just a still shot playing that music. It was like, so
wah. Yep, that I could see that. I thought the dinner table scene was really good. That was. From that scene, I was on the edge of my seat in that scene. I was like, I don't know where this movie's going to go from here. Yeah. This is powerful stuff. I was on the edge of my seat during that, and I thought this movie could knock my socks off. And then from where it went from there was just disappointing. But man, the acting is great. I mean, I can't not take anything away from that. I'm trying to think what else.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered most things.
Yeah, I still feel like I haven't said enough good about it because I don't know. I still did like the movie overall.
I mean,
did it scare you?
I mean, I guess no, not really. I mean, when it showed the decapitated head, I was like, whoa, that's
Yeah, that was pretty out there. I think the only part that really got me in the whole movie was in terms of scaring me, I that scene where Peter it was right after the dad dies by burning, and then the grandma, I guess, goes into Toni Collette. That I was like, oh shit, I was on edge there because I knew. And then it goes into Peter's room, and that was a really good scene to me because it goes into Peter's room, and you slowly, I guess because it's adjusted to the light, you see that the mom is up in the corner of like the room, and then when he looks around, like you see her like silently scamper on the wall out into the hallway. That was pretty good.
I mean, that was like the one jump scare.
Yeah, that was effective. And then even when he goes in the living room or whatever and sees his dad burn and you see the mom up in the wall there, that was pretty good. I mean, I think even horror-wise, there were still some effective moments at the end. It just was it wasn't anything original. It was just kind of good. I thought it was well done, but it just wasn't anything new.
Yeah, there was nothing really groundbreaking here for me at all.
Yeah. Alrighty, you want to rate this bad boy and... Put a bow on it?
Yeah. Actually, before the ending, I was probably somewhere around like a 6.5 or a 7, and that ending sunk it to a 5.5 for me.
5.5. I'm still sitting at a 7. I still liked it. I was actually, to be honest, I was around like I would say up until the end of the movie, I was around like a 9. I really liked it. I was loving it, and then the end just knocked it down a bit for me, but... Still liked it. I still think I still want to see more horror movies like this, but just was not what I expected to be. I feel like this movie was kind of a failure on the marketing front and what I've heard about it. It's almost better that you don't read. I didn't read that many reviews, but I definitely read some headlines and some general articles about it. And I had big expectations going into this movie. And I think this was on my top 5 list for the year. So I was that extra element of anticipation, so I wasn't as good as I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, I definitely after reading what everybody had to say and then going into it, I was like, I don't know if we watched the same movie, to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely don't think so. And I was like looking at reviews after, and I didn't see anything that made me think there was something that we missed or something I missed that was deeper in it. It really was just a literal story about a demon.
Well, what was driving me nuts is like I actually did see some bad reviews saying that the ending it went off the rails, but most of the good reviews just didn't mention the ending at all. They just talked about all the good things, and it's like they kind of tried to dismiss the bad things.
Yeah, or they acted like the ending was just like, oh yeah, and then the ending happened, and just kind of brushed it under the rug. But it's like, no, that ending was let's focus on that a little bit. That's a pretty big deal. because it's again, it's like the whole movie hinges on that ending, and once you find out what the whole root of the problem was in this family, it's just really disappointing to me.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's it for Hereditary. I'd still be interested to see what this guy does in the future, the director, because I thought it was interesting, but do something different next time.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of skills, so we'll see.
Yeah, he does. I mean, I got to say, for a first movie, that was definitely pretty impressive. I will say that, because for a first movie, it definitely makes you want to see what he's up to in the future. But alrighty, I don't really have anything else, man.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done here. I can't think of anything else.
Alrighty, guys. So follow us on all our social media as normal. We're on Facebook, the Serious Film Critics, Twitter, Serious__ Critics. What else we got? That's about it. Just follow us on all our social media. And yeah, we got a big episode next week. I think we're going to be doing a review of Doom.
Yeah, stay tuned for this one. It's going to be big.
Yes, stay tuned for this one. It's going to be a big episode, so I think you guys are going to like it. All right, guys, follow us on all our stuff. Send us your emails to seriousfilmcritics@gmail.com. We've been getting some pretty good ones. And we will see you next time. Take it easy.